I'm not an attorney. This is nothing legal. This is a list, and so last wishes are whatever you want to happen that cannot be written in a will or is not big enough to be in a will. It's where are your passwords? Where are your extra set of keys? Who's your veterinarian? Which bank do you bank at? These are all the zillions of errands somebody does after somebody dies. And unless you write it down, your last wishes will not come true. If you have a collection of dolls or your mother's china and you love them, who are you going to leave those to? Otherwise, they go in a garage sale.
Have you figured out your niche? Are you helping adding value to other people's lives? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira, the Niche Navigator, coming to you live with another guest on Munira's Musings. How are you, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Our guest today is Mary Jane Charles. She's coming to us all the way from New Bern in North Carolina. She talks about last wishes. It's an important subject that nobody else wants to talk about. Now, why is this so important? But before we start talking to her, we will talk about what Munira's Musings is about and what the Niche Navigator does. Munira's Musings is a platform where I have found that I can talk to people and allow them to express themselves on their journey to their niche. As the Niche Navigator, everybody is looking, I know that everybody is looking for a platform and to find whatever they're supposed to do in this world. We're always looking for a purpose. And I help people find that way to trudge to whatever they want to get to. And that's the job of every coach. But every coach, every entrepreneur is trying to solve a problem out there. And one of these problem solvers that we're showcasing today is Mary Jane. So without further ado, hi, Mary Jane. Welcome to Munira's Musings.
Good morning, Munira. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Mary Jane.
Well, I'm a native New Yorker. I spent most of my adult life on the West Coast. And after that chapter came to a close, I drove cross country with my cat and dog, and I discovered a little town called New Bern, North Carolina. It's been quite a journey, and I'm here to let you know all about it. Lessons learned along the way, of course. My prior work experience, I was in the corporate world as office manager, a lot of HR. I worked with entrepreneurs and ran their offices for them. And then I was a bookkeeper for 20 years with my own business. So I've had lots of different kinds of experiences. I love people. And then my own world kind of imploded. My late husband died in the car seat next to me. Oh. And he had a heart attack, but he was also very sick. He would not go to a doctor. I never learned why. And he relied upon Google. So if you know somebody who's doing this, at least start to talk to them about their last wishes. I was left in an abyss with no papers. And it started one day. And I had step people looking at me. Well, what do we do? What did he say about this? What about this? He had a partner. I knew nothing. And there were no papers. I had no papers. That morning, I knew he was getting weaker. And I asked him, I had the Washington State is where I lived at the time. And I had the medical directive in one hand and my phone in the other. And I don't know what I had the phone for, but I did. I needed something to hold on to. I said, please, let's fill this out. And he was like, no, no, no. And then I asked him 20 minutes later, and he said, yes. And wherever these ideas come from, the world, the Lord above, however you view that, I was able to videotape him and read the document to him. And when it was a question, I put it in a yes or no answer, because that's how weak he was. And he could shake his head or nod. And 20 minutes later, I had it on my phone. So no way in God's good earth did I even think that I might be using it. But that afternoon, he wanted to go see his partner. We pull into the parking space, and I look over and he was gone. And it can happen just like that. So within the hour, I was in ER with family arriving. And I didn't, you just sit. I don't know what else to do. A doctor appeared. He said, do you have his medical directive? And I said, no, but I have this. And I got it to the point, and that doctor was amazed. He'd never seen something like this before. He asked to borrow my phone, I'm sure, to go to the powers that be and see if it would be acceptable, which it was. So no further treatment was given to my husband, which is exactly what he wanted. I cannot tell you how much angst and frustration and sorrow, etc., that little 20-minute video prevented. And so that was the first day. And that's what started this ball rolling. Do you want
let me go back a little bit? I mean, I love the story, and I nobody should ever have to go through this, but
Exactly.
I think we are birds of a feather when we go together, because we know what that pain is like. But you said you are now in Newbern, but was all this before you came to Newbern?
Correct.
Okay. So you were in Washington State, and this all happened. And if it wasn't for the 20-minute video, you would have had a lot of heartache, because we know that there's a lot of family who gets together and they want stuff or they need stuff right there and then, and you're a basket case. I've gone through this twice, so I know.
Yeah. The thing was, to your point, when I said that there would be angst and frustration, the hospitals by law have to do no harm but try to save someone's life.
True.
And that's the whole point of the medical directive. If you do not want to be resuscitated, they have to know that. And they have to know that through the patient, not just a family vote. That might not work. Each instance is different. I am not an attorney, and it varies state to state. So if you have a medical directive, but you just moved from Los Angeles to Illinois, I would get an Illinois affidavit. You don't have to have that conversation, and do not assume that all state laws are the same. They're not, or they're rarely. So
very good point.
You just stay up to speed on that. It's the first, pardon me, the first chapter in this.
So how long ago was this incident?
Almost 8 years ago.
Okay, so now you're in Newbern, and you are starting this awareness about last wishes. So you went through this and you thought everybody else should know about this. So have you been doing this for 8 years? It's
an evolution, Munira. He died, and so he died, and we did the medical directive. That was day one. And then we got through the funeral. That was no small thing, but it pays to stay in touch with people you knew a while ago. I happened to be able to call my old parish, and one lady took the music, another the reception, another the music, and it was magical. Everything fell into place. So that's another point. When this got down to the week after the funeral, I did not have a will to go by, which meant I was not the executor. I had to file an affidavit with the state of Washington proving who I was and be approved as the personal representative for the estate. You don't have to do this. Write it down, name an executive. This is all because I had nothing in writing. And this was a man who was a builder in life and knew the importance of small print. I didn't have any small print. I didn't have any papers. And if I could pass along one phrase, if another family member asked me a question that I had to say, I don't know, I was not, I don't know. What else can you tell somebody? I turned it around and I said, I'll get back to you. And it's a fabulous phrase. You can change it up with your tone of voice or a little body language, or depending upon who's asking you. But they do crawl back under their rocks and you will be able to take a breath, make no decisions the first 2 weeks. You're not in any shape. Your brain is mush. And you really do need to find people, the old phrase, circle your wagons. Put that in your brain and find people. You don't have to like them, but people you can trust to get the job done. They don't have to be at your next Thanksgiving table, but they are very able in what they do, like an attorney. Make sure you get an attorney or a legal service. I'm not pushing anything here, but that much I know. It's worth its weight in gold in the moment to be able to pick up a phone and say, Jim, I need you. And that man or woman, I went through 3 attorneys, 2 of whom were women, and they both dropped the ball. And I found that absolutely disconcerting all by myself in my brain. But don't judge one or the other. Just get someone who will do what you need to have done. And you put them on your phone. That's another tip I can pass, is put the top 5 people you want notified on your phone and put it under a label called ICE, in case of emergency. And this is for anyone, not for dire circumstances. We all know how quickly you can slip, whether it's down the stairs or in the driveway, and to hit your head and not be able to speak for yourself.
That's a very good tip, right? Because the 5 people that you want notified. I learned this about 8 years ago when one of the pharmacists that I worked with for years, and she had contracted a very severe disease, and then all of a sudden one day I got an email saying that my mom, it was a very nice articulated email, said that we've had and drafted this email in my mother's words, and you were one of the first people that she wanted to know that she's gone.
There you go.
And so, I didn't have to do anything, but there was those priority people that you just want people to know that she's gone.
That's right.
And what you are saying is good, because this was a tip that I learned in one of the I think the 90-minute show, the 60-minute show on NBC or something, where they said that the 10 people that you want, put them as ICE 1, ICE 2, ICE 3, ICE 4, ICE 5, and so forth, partly because the police have a way to get into your phone, so the first people they call are those people.
That's right. And don't make them search for it. Every time is of the essence. So put an ICE, they know to look for that. As far as the medical directive, that's not a secret. You should have copies everywhere, on your refrigerator, in a freezer bag, and just put it right there on the side of the refrigerator with big letters, ICE. And firemen or EMTs will say, is there a medical directive? And you let your neighbor know, your family know. Put one in your night table, your glove compartment. You can put a small version in your purse or your wallet. It needs to be found, because the EMTs don't make decisions. They're basically a medical taxi. And so they need to have that as you arrive in the hospital. The hospital makes decisions. If that's attached to you, they'll know what to do out the gate. And so time is of the essence, but you got to help them here. They have to know what to do.
Well,
And
that's wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing that up. So let's fast forward to, you are now in New Bern, and this over the years you said it has been a journey, and you are now helping everybody. So what is it that you help people with? I mean, the time is of essence here too, so I want to get to the
all
root
right.
of the program.
So before I left the Northwest, I wrote a book for myself. I needed to get all this out of my head. It's called Surviving the Business of Dying, Why Final Papers Matter. And I won a book award in 2019. It's simply my story. And it's all the gobbledygook coming through, and the call to action primarily for women, but anybody, just write it down, start writing it down. My friend said, nice book, Mary Jane, but I still don't know where to begin. So I created a workbook. This is my workbook. It's a nice big coloring book size, user-friendly workbook. And you can find these by on my website, and we'll get to that. So the book and the workbook led to classes. And since I've been in New Bern, I have renamed my company to Last Wishes and Support. And I provide the books, of course, but I have classes on how to gather your last wishes. And by this, it is the details that make your will work. It's your passwords. What bank branch do you go to? And will they know who Munira is if I walk in her behalf? I know here in New Bern, if you went to my bank and met Angela and said, I'm here on behalf of Mary Jane, she'd know exactly who you were talking about. It smooths the way. It's one less conversation you have to have. And please don't have to prove who you are. Write down who you want as an executor. And that's the person who has your complete trust that your legal wishes, your property and your jewelry, etc., will all be taken care of. In here are the keys to the kingdom. They don't have to go find your bank. They don't have to go find your veterinarian. What are you going to do with your animals? It's all in here. And it's one-stop shopping. I tried to make it as broad. We all have different backgrounds, different traditions. So if it's not exactly in there, you can add to it. There are a lot of thought prompters. If you're a veteran, your family will need to have your discharge papers and all kinds of things. You can gather that now. I mean, there's no rush. It's just, I never thought about that before. That's what this is full of. All that, I never thought about that. And name a social media administrator if you have, such as Munira and we have different social media accounts. What's going to happen to those if we slip on a banana and we never come back again? It needs to be written down, and allow your attorney to know that this book exists, because otherwise they will do it. They'll go get all the answers, but they'll charge your estate, and that takes huge amounts of time. So between time and effort, this is incredibly considerate. I mean, we leave instructions when we go away for the weekend. We get babysitters. We do all kinds of prep work when we are not available. This is the last directive, almost. You need to let people know what goes on in your world that no one else can find. So that's where this came from. My whole mission is to eliminate the angst and frustration that I went through, not knowing I was flying by the seat of my pants the whole way. I know my father did a lot of probate work. He was an attorney. And I just sat at the dining room table and it was like, Daddy, I need you now. And it's still emotional. You will be emotional. All I'm saying is much easier to open up a book. That's the answer. Who to call when I'm gone. Family data, financial information, other important information. A eulogy. Start writing your own eulogy. We all have things in our heads that maybe people don't know about, like the time you won your first trophy and you beat that kid finally in the race. Those are great stories to pass on. And this is, again, thought prompters. and at your reception. Plan your reception. Make it a big party. It's your last hurrah. Need not be sad. Just blow them out of the water and have a good time. This is not a scary book. It is question and answer, big print, because some of us need big print, and you can add to it. And I suggest the first go around, use pencil, because you'll come back a month later and be like, whoa, I don't want that. And you can easily cross it out and maybe do it 2 or 3 times and put the final version in the book, so no one else can change it. And it's all yours. If you have a partner, buy them a book as well, because your details will differ. And so everyone should have his or her own book.
You know, you bring such a wonderful point, because like I said, I did this twice. My first husband suffered a heart attack, and a friend told me to go get a trust done. Now, what you are, and you know, a trust, although we get a trust, everything is in writing, we never do the intricate details like you are explaining, right? So the legal documents are done in one place, but what happens to that ring that your mother wore that you want to give to your daughter, right?
Exactly.
And although, and you know, it's what you're bringing to mind is, it's triggering memory, where those little things are, even we're supposed to put that in the will, in the documentation. I have the whole binder of about a 4-inch binder that I was carrying around with my husband. My first husband passed away. You know, it was just amazing, but when I looked at the paperwork, we never filled it out to the letter.
Yep.
Right? But instead of doing that, and that, because that 4-inch binder is so overwhelming, you can take this book and put everything down, which is a wonderful idea, and make that as an accompaniment so that people have easy access and they're not looking over pages and countless and pages. Because what I had was several different booklets, and I still have it. Because I was going to keep it for at least a few years and then get rid of it. But it was different booklets. Now, this was in 2010 when I did that for my first husband. And the process of a trust and a legal document, it just makes it seamless. But I'll tell you one thing, Mary Jane, in all the time that I've known you, I never knew this was what you were teaching, right?
Oh.
Partly because I was like, okay, yeah, she's talking about getting a will, but it wasn't that, because when my second husband and I were married, he was the type of, he was very not tech savvy. He hated technology, and everything was in his head. So when I started doing technology for him, all of the passwords were in a document on my phone, because that's how I used to get to his computer and stuff. And it took a lot of, because now Google just talks to you when you are on one computer. You either have one profile on this computer, or you have, another profile, and then it's like it remembers your passwords. But they say that encryption like that isn't good. So you have to have different passwords. You have to have different things. But all of the documentation was on my phone, and he hated that, because every time he needed to go to his bank, he would have to ask me for the passwords.
Yeah.
But that was a blessing in disguise, because I had access to his stuff, not because I wanted to be prying and everything, but because he just couldn't understand it. But now, as you talk about this, I'm alone right now. And if something were to happen to me, then who would be the people who I want have access to, right?
Yep.
And how would they get it? So what you are talking about is the next step after you do your legal documentation. You yourself just now said that get a lawyer, get your paperwork in order. But what if people don't have that and they do have this? Then how does that work? Is this also considered a testament, or?
I think, and again, I'm pleading, I'm not an attorney. However, this book, used in the right way, could preempt a will. You can do this anytime. You don't have to wait till you have a will. These are all the details. As far as a will, I know they're expensive. And so there are legal services that can help you that are less. In any case, the main point there is whatever you write is a will needs to be reviewed legally. This is not a legal document. However, it would be a great addition to the will. And as you mentioned, Munira, to put it with your will papers. Caveat being, you want this available to you. I would date it so that if you decide to make changes, the one that's with the will is as of 3 months ago, but you thought of a boatload of others, or life changed and you need to change things. So always, if you share this with your attorney in ink, put the date you gave it to them and initial it, so that if you come up with a second one, they will know what to refer to. I would just make it known, and I created 2 positions. I created a social media administrator because, the executor could be very able to speak with the attorney, but they might not be tech savvy, and we cannot assume they are. So get someone who is, and a good friend or your younger child or nephew to do the admin. They don't need to know ahead of time. This is your book, and I would not put it on discuss at the Thanksgiving table. This is the way you want things done. These are wishes, and in order to have your wishes come true, we need a treasure map, so to speak. And this is where they start, and this is who they speak to. And after that, oh, by the way, this is what I want to wear. I mean, it might seem obnoxious, and I have a couple of stories with that, because somebody wasn't consulted. This poor man wore trousers that never fit him properly. I mean, his wife spotted it, the family took care of it. She's like, oh my goodness. So, I mean, there are things in there, just write everything down. The other beauty of this is put it someplace safely, but someplace you can reach it in the moment, because, as we cook or we clean, we're like, oh, I know that, and write it down in the moment. Stop what you're doing and write that little ditty down, or we'll forget again. But it's the little things that help in the moment that are just, the will schmill. I need the details. I need to know who to speak to at the bank.
This is such a wonderful detail. So one of the things is, where do people find you? How do people find you?
Okay, if you go to my website, lastwishesandsupport.com, it can be, you can click your way through. The other thing is they are on Amazon, and I will put my information in the chat. Last but not least, I have a, well, that's it, Amazon and my website.
So are you selling the 2 things together, the book and the accompaniment, the workbook?
Okay.
Your book and your workbook?
Yes, on Amazon, they are sold separately. I do have a book website, which is mjcauthor.com, and I offer them as a set. And as my Black Friday offer, which is not yet advertised, but I will bring it up in this forum, my Black Friday gift is you go to my own book website, which is mjcauthor.com. And the books are there both individually, and I sell them as a set. Amazon doesn't sell sets of books. And if you buy the set, as of today, you will receive a free introductory class on a date of your choosing. Caveat here is I don't have the dates yet. This is still in progress, but I just thought of this while we were talking. So if you go on today and purchase the books, I will still receive your name and your email, and I will forward the rest of the information to you probably this week, as soon as I have it myself.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you mentioned that if somebody has the books and you offer classes, are these in-person classes or do them on Zoom?
They're in Zoom. It's an introductory class to show you how to use the book and what the book's all about. After that, if somebody is still uncomfortable or it's a little overwhelmed, which is absolutely a possibility, especially if you're in the moment, you know, if you realize somebody needs this in a hurry, I absolutely encourage, and I will be there with you, is a one-to-one. So I have options available, but before we got to that, or if you want it off the bat, I'm available and we can pick a time and date of your choosing.
Awesome, awesome. So of course, thank you so much, Mary Jane. This is so overwhelming for me because it's something dear to my heart. And you know, I am doing a workshop on how to make a will without breaking the bank, right?
Yes.
And this is coming up on November 20th. And if you guys want details, we'll put that under the Facebook chat, because I want everybody to figure out what their last wishes are. And somehow you and there's other few people that have come surfaced, and all of this is like coming together. Because why is this important? It's important because you're not going to come back and tell us once you're gone. And there are many questions that remain to be answered. But if you put them down, then at least the people in your life are not frustrated and not angry, because anger doesn't help, right? So,
Oh no, and I'm the youngest of five, and my father was an attorney, and there's always there'll be a stamp on the floor and they'll want that stamp. It's human nature, and to sit and watch it is just wild, you know.
But what you're bringing to the table is such a wonderful thing. So when you start, one more question that I have is, when do people start doing this, and what age?
I would say, especially after this pandemic, I'm sorry, I'm typing here. Anyone who's lived through the pandemic, you know, everybody was sick. And people didn't know what their 22, 23-year-old wanted. It's too young to write a will. Not so much. I think of voting age, if you can vote, if you, God forbid, we go back to a draft, would be drafted. All the services do it, police do it with new recruits. Write a will. We need a will. And so there's still this phobia, this, I'm not doing that, among all ages. And that's just ludicrous. You absolutely need it for a million reasons. If you're married, regardless of age, do it together. Watch a movie and do it together. And don't be upset if you don't have the same ideas. This is yours, you know. And especially if you're in your 30s, 40s, and upward. And that gives you the options to change things. Lordy knows if I wrote one 30 years ago and I have one, it would be different. It would be very different.
Thank you so much.
Just as an aside, I was married in my 20s, and my first husband died of Lou Gehrig's disease. But that was so long ago. There were no papers whatsoever, none. So really take advantage of this and make sure you talk about it and let people know that you do have a book. And that person who should know, the position I named them was first lieutenant. And that was my son, who's 28 and very able to help me in the weeks afterward. And one day he saluted me, and that's where that came from, because I had too many orders to give. So name a first lieutenant, and they're the ones that people can go to. And when everybody's losing their mind, he walks in, she left a book. This is where it is.
Yes, thank you so much. This is so enlightening. Thank you so very much, because you don't know how many people are breathing a sigh of relief right now. And this is going to go everywhere, and where podcasts are in about 2 weeks. We're going to render it and send it over. But this is a evergreen product that we think that everybody, no, we don't think, we know that everybody should have. So
Absolutely.
thank you so very much.
You're very welcome.
And we will, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We are not trying to scare you. We are trying to prepare you.
Absolutely. This is not scary. And if someone is still, in a huff, just work on it. They're watching the ball game or whatever, and you're working in your book, and leave the book on the table. Curiosity killed the cat. Satisfaction brought him back. So just leave it there.
I love that. So ladies and gentlemen, it's not a scare tactic. It's just being prepared, because I have my own personal stories of how this opened the doors for me. And that 4-inch binder that I talked about, I just could take it to the bank. I could take it to, wherever I needed to go, and just doors opened up for me. It was just so amazing. Well, that was a very expensive process. But if you're not thinking about that right now, let's start with Mary Jane's book, because the workbook, it seems, has all of the steps that you can follow, and it's the breadcrumbs to the will, I think.
Correct. And the set of books, the smaller book, this is my story, and then it was followed up with the workbook. So
Perfect.
you go to the website and you will see them packaged together with a red bow for Christmas.
Oh, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it. If you are on the fence, if you are thinking about this, you haven't thought about this, all you need to do is just take the first step, get the books. And it's at mjauthor.com. We'll put the links on the bottom. And if you guys are ready and want to listen to, okay, let's make a will, but I don't know where to start, or you know what, wills are expensive, come to the workshop that's on November 20th at 10:30 a.m. Central. And all we are trying to do is put this awareness in the world so that people can take this to the next step. And thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, Mary Jane. You enlightened us a lot. And everybody who is on this call, if you like and share this, it would be amazing. Thank you. Till next week, when we come back with another guest, let's have some fun and let's think about what our next steps are going to be in life. Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi. If you enjoyed our show, please share and subscribe to this channel. And for more content, please join our Facebook group.